I have no right to leave anyone behind. Emily Carter's roar echoed across the training grounds at Fort Bragg, drawing every recruit's gaze toward her. They had once dismissed her as a relic of the past, a fading shadow. Yet when a high school wrestler found himself trapped amid razor, wire, and choking mud, she stormed through the debris, disregarding exhaustion and grime, to haul him to safety with every ounce of her strength. This was not merely a feat of physical prowess, it was living proof of a true warrior's spirit. Miss this moment, and you'll regret it forever. Emily Carter strode into Fort Bragg's jungle course training area just as the early morning sun peaked above the horizon. Each dewdrop clinging to pine needles shimmered like a shattered crystal. The 42-year-old former Navy SEAL halted before the ranks of recruits, standing silent as they huddled beneath the trees. Her workout gear was faded, her frame lean and seemingly tireless. Behind her, the giggles of 18 and 19-year-old trainees echoed, as they assumed a woman of their mother's generation could never keep pace with such ruthless drills. Emily made no immediate response. She crossed her arms, her steely gaze sweeping the squad from the broad-shouldered Southern football player swaggering onto the field to the city girl with her shock of golden-dyed hair. All watched her, a mixture of curiosity and scorn in their eyes. None had ever witnessed anyone older than 20 throw herself elbow-deep into a labyrinth of climbing ropes, scale wooden walls towering over 6 feet, or crawl through mud-filled tunnels. The instructors had even whispered among themselves, "Do we really need a 42-year-old skipo out here?" Yet Emily had been green-lit under a special program to impart her combat experience to this new generation. A weighty hush fell as she approached the rope ladder. She laid her powerful hand on the thick, sweat-salted cord, roughened by grains of sand. The first recruit charged upward, foot locking into the rope, hauling himself up to cheers and the sound of boots punching the earth. Emily withdrew a small tin box from her pocket, staring intently at the metal within a lone relic from a fallen teammate. That battered tin bore witness to her war-scarred past. It spoke more loudly than any drill of hardships she had survived, far harsher than any trial at Fort Bragg. Now, as Emily planted her boot on the wooden platform before scaling the wall, every gaze turned toward her. Doubt flickered among them. Could she surmount this 9-foot barricade without hesitation? The rustle of wind through the pines seemed to whisper their intrigue. She inhaled deeply, then sprang upward, arms wrapping over the top, foot finding the narrow ledge. Each motion was decisive, unhesitant. A martial arts commentator might call it silent power. When Emily's boot touched the summit, the air snapped alive, relieved breaths mingled with muted applause. Yet instead of savoring the moment, she merely looked down, her expression still that of a hardened commander. Jensen, the boastful Alabama wrestler, stood stricken silent. The hulking athlete seemed diminutive under the scrutiny of a woman who had faced dozens of covert missions. Emily knew she had seized their attention, but it was only the beginning. She dipped into a respectful salute as strands of mud flung from her boots clattered against the ground. The instructors turned back, exchanging looks of grudging admiration. A few recruits whispered under the canopy, "I never thought she could pull that off." That low buzz could not mask the challenge stirring in every heart. If she can do it, I can too. Yet Emily's burden extended beyond proving physical prowess. She had lost comrades within those very tunnels in Afghanistan, at a clandestine forward operating base that was overrun. Each night, echoes of gunfire and comrades' cries haunted her. The helplessness of failing to save them weighed heavy on her soul. Every time she ascended a rope, she remembered her vow, leave no one behind. It was not just a SEAL mantra, it was her creed. For a quiet heartbeat, Emily's gaze swept the final recruit in line, wide-eyed and anxious. She offered a faint, knowing smile, the smile of someone who had seen every kind of trial and remained resolute. From her perch, she beckoned Jensen forward, her voice carrying above the hushed field. "Come up, I'll guide you." It was not loud, but its resonance filled their minds. This was the moment they understood that true strength was forged by will, not by age. Emily eased back to the ground, stepping with the quiet assurance of a monk. She supported Jensen's climb, teaching him how to lock his foot and steady his breath, secrets no training manual could capture. Jensen's eyes brightened as he realized that standing beside him was not just a drill instructor, but living combat experience and unyielding resolve. When Emily loosened the thick scarf around her neck, the emblem of a fallen comrade, and retied it gently, the recruits held their breath. They recognized that the scarf was more than a memento. It was the spark of faith and latent power in each of them. And then, a voice cut through the stillness. "It's the first time I've ever seen a woman do that." Every eye remained fixed on Emily because her story was far from over, and the challenges ahead would demand even greater courage. Will you stay to witness what happens next? That thought echoed in Emily Carter's mind as she drew the weathered tin box from her pocket. Midday sunlight filtered through the pine canopy, casting soft golden streaks across the battered surface. Amid the usual din of the jungle course drills, every sound seemed to fade as she lifted the lid, revealing an aged photograph and a hastily scrawled note on the back. This was the key by which Emily would bridge the gap to a generation of recruits who felt worlds apart. Surrounded by curious onlookers, little Haley, the daughter of the fallen medic, stepped forward, eyes shining with unshed tears. Emily placed the photograph into Haley's hands with gentle reverence. In that image, a blonde-haired young man clutched the Medal of Honor to his chest, his face tilted skyward as though bearing unspoken burdens. Emily whispered the story of the teammate who had bestowed that medal upon her mere moments before their SEAL unit was ambushed in the icy Bering Sea, a morning so frigid that their breaths turned to mist hanging in the air. Haley's small fingers trembled as she raised the photo, blinking back her sorrow. The surrounding recruits fell silent, their expressions shifting from skepticism to respect. They realized that beneath Emily's weathered exterior lay not only the toughness of a soldier, but the heart of a sister who had endured profound loss. The cost of her resilience, they now understood, was a heart forever marked by grief. Emily continued, her face thoughtful. That dawn she had boarded the vessel through swirling frost, her father a retired Marine standing stiffly at the gangplank, his gaze betraying the pain of farewell. No words were exchanged, only grief-laden eyes. That image remained etched in Emily's soul and beneath her skin for countless months thereafter. Whenever a recruit faltered before a towering wooden wall, her heart clenched at the memory of her father's trembling shoulders, offering her silent strength. As Emily closed the tin, the midday sun's brilliance cast a gentle glow upon her features. She handed the box to Haley, nodding with solemn encouragement to safeguard this legacy. The recruits remained hushed, each silently wondering, could I bear such weight of the past and still stand tall before the challenge? An imagined bell tolled through the clearing, no drill signal, but a summons to conscience, reminding everyone that beneath each uniform lies an untold story, immeasurable loss. Emily tapped her boot against the earth, as though affirming, we all carry a story that deserves to be heard. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. When that scream echoed, the entire tunnel seemed to shatter with Jensen's hoarse cry. The beam from his flashlight sputtered out in the mud-choked crawlway, leaving an inky blackness so complete it swallowed every sound. Outside, the recruits froze in their tracks, hearts pounding in their ears. None could have imagined the proud high school wrestler who only moments ago had been boasting of his achievements now trapped amid razor wire and rising panic. Emily Carter, standing just beyond the tunnel's mouth, recognized that instant as a brutal rewind to ambushes in Afghanistan's rocky passes where darkness and muck had silenced pleas for help. Emily did not hesitate. She flung her jacket aside, the small figure of a seasoned warrior darting into the narrow gap between the tunnel walls. Clods of mud spattered in her wake, her gear soaked through, but her focus remained solely on Jensen. Each resolute step carved a path for the stranded recruit, The muck tugged at her uniform, yet she ripped a strip of fabric free, pressing it to Jensen's arm to staunch the bleeding. Her eyes glowed with purpose, a comforting smile flickering even though her lips moved soundlessly. In that moment, Jensen's flashlight flickered back to life, its beam cutting through the mire to illuminate the scarf draped around Emily's neck, a relic of her fallen SEAL comrade. Threadbare and worn, that scarf had wiped sweat and tears in countless brutal operations. Now, it became the living link between one generation of warriors and the next, bridged at the brink of life and death. The rasp of the razor wire trimmer outside fell silent, and Emily's light steps echoed inside the tunnel like a solemn pledge. Leave no one behind. As she guided Jensen backward toward the tunnel's entrance, his shoulders sagged, yet he clung to Emily's steady frame. Outside, the recruits glimpsed their silhouettes through the dim light, rising together from their nightmare. A wave of relief washed over the group. Gone were the taunts about her being too old for this training, the whispers that the outsider didn't belong. In that instant, Emily became the indispensable force at the heart of their grueling course. Under the feeble daylight, the stark white gauze on Jensen's arm stood out against the mud, an emblem of silent victory, while flecks of mud on Emily's back spoke of her unspoken heroism. Just then, Commanding Officer Brigadier General Barnes emerged, his gaze sharp with assessment. He saw in Emily more than mere physical strength. He witnessed the living embodiment of brotherhood and unbreakable resolve. Time itself seemed to pause. Jensen leaned into Emily, drew a steadying breath, and lifted his chin, determination rekindled. Emily reached up, removed the frayed scarf, and gently laid it across Jensen's shoulders, an unspoken transfer of faith. A breeze stirred, billowing the scarf like a living banner of renewal, the fervor of youth reborn through the hands of experience. Taylor, the Southern football standout, stood silent, head bowed, absorbing a lesson deeper than any standard training lecture. Jensen's steps grew surer as he scaled the wooden wall, each movement echoing his newfound grit. Emily stood by the course's edge, posture erect, her gaze both firm and warm. The remaining recruits felt a surge of positive energy. They understood that this trial was not merely of physical endurance, but of the capacity to guide and safeguard their comrades. From beyond the obstacle, a chant rose, supplanting the customary warm-up calls with genuine encouragement. "Keep going, for your teammates!" Emily turned her eyes to each recruit, as if gauging their readiness. She offered a subtle nod, then stepped aside, allowing Jensen to complete his climb. A hush descended, anticipation hanging like mist. Every step Jensen took now mattered not as a solitary feat, but as a milestone in the shared journey from past to present, from mentor to mentee. When Jensen vaulted off the top, landing firmly on solid ground, the group erupted in applause. Emily's first full, proud smile broke across her face, its warmth replacing any earlier sternness. The scarf draped loosely over her shoulder bore witness to that quiet transformation. The recruits rose as one, their eyes shining with respect. They had witnessed not merely an instructor, but a symbol of courage and unyielding loyalty. And now, the question posed not only to Jensen but to every spectator lingers in the air. Do you have the courage to bear your comrade's burden? And will the creed of leaving no one behind embed itself in your heart just as deeply as it did in Emily Carter's? All eyes turned sharply toward the fence line. The roar of training engines cut off abruptly as General Barnes, the commanding officer inspecting Fort Bragg, stepped into the mud-choked crawlway. He halted at the sight of Emily Carter guiding Jensen out, the stark white bandage on the young wrestler's arm standing out against his gaunt form. Late afternoon, sunlight drifted across the scene, illuminating the frayed scarf draped around Emily's neck, a silent testament to her nights in relentless combat. In that moment, rank and age vanished. There stood only a leader and a warrior shouldering heavy responsibility. Emily squared her shoulders, holding her gaze unwaveringly on General Barnes. Her boots, crusted with mud, and her worn windbreaker spoke volumes of a former Navy SEAL who had braved freezing seas and blistering tunnels. General Barnes, once skeptical about placing a 42-year-old SCPO amid fresh recruits, now regarded her with new respect. The recruits' whispered doubts dissolved into an atmosphere of solemn honor. She lifted her chin, eyes shifting briefly to Jensen before settling on the general. "Sir, this is my responsibility. No one is left behind." Her voice was calm yet resolute, more potent than any drill command. Every listener felt the weight of "Leave no man behind," no longer a slogan, but a life-and-death vow under countless bullets. General Barnes inhaled deeply, absorbing the profound truth in her words. His gaze drifted from the weathered scarf emblematic of fallen comrades to the white bandage on Jensen's arm, the muted light reflecting unyielding faith. He nodded slowly, authorizing the continuation of training, but the course had irrevocably changed. The recruits straightened in unison, no longer regarding Emily as an out-of-place oddity but embracing her as a comrade in arms. Taylor, the Southern football star, drew a long breath, his first cheer for a fellow soldier rather than personal glory. Haley, the medic's daughter, clutched the tin box photograph to her chest, tears welling as she grasped that today's lesson transcended any textbook instruction. Emily turned back to Jensen, bending to adjust his windbreaker and rewrap his bandage. A flicker of sorrow crossed her eyes as she recalled her father's farewell at Aleutian Harbor. No words, only a trembling hand heaving a final scarf around her shoulders before the waves crashed against the hull. She had vowed to steel herself against heartbreak in the face of enemy fire. Now, amid razor, wire, and sodden tunnels, Emily recognized that true strength lay in shared wounds and unity. For a heartbeat, Fort Bragg stood still. The instructor's hurried footsteps slowed to a gentle cadence. The whistle signaling the end of drills meant less than the steadying breaths of a soldier given new hope. All acknowledged that Emily led not from manuals, but from a crucible of blood, tears, and that tattered scarf. As Emily shepherded Jensen back into formation, a cheer rose from deep within their ranks, not an order, but a heartfelt cry. "Once again, we have surpassed ourselves." Applause thundered. As if to contain the surge of emotion, Jensen, arm still stiff with pain, turned to Emily, gratitude shining more brightly than any words. This was the pivotal moment, from doubt to reverence, from grueling exercise to a profound lesson in solidarity. Emily inhaled deeply, feeling the surge of energy ripple through the camp. She sought no acclaim. She wished only that each recruit carry the creed of "no one left behind" into every battle yet to come. News traveled like wildfire. The gravel roads of Fort Bragg's training grounds were anything but ordinary the next morning. Whispers of Emily Carter having saved Jensen's life rippled through every corner of the field. Recruits who had mocked and doubted her now crowded around Emily, eager to learn her rope-climbing technique and tunnel dive methods. Taylor, the Southern high school football star who once boasted only of personal glory, stood quietly in line, his eyes shining with newfound respect. The proud Southern girls, who had mocked Emily's age, now nodded eagerly, requesting her guidance on maintaining balance atop the slick wooden wall. Emily did not rush to respond. She folded her worn scarf with quiet care, her gaze sweeping over each new face. She understood that instruction was not merely technical, but a transfer of spirit. Every piece of advice she offered: how to place one's foot on the rope, how to control breathing in pitch-dark tunnels, how to confront panic in a life-or-death moment, was weighed with care. The recruits immersed themselves in the lesson, and the camp's atmosphere seemed alight with a rekindled flame of camaraderie. In his office, General Barnes sat alone at the large wooden desk, flipping through the training reports. He recalled his own doubts when the special program was launched. "We need to see if Sco Carter is truly up to this task." Now, after Jensen's triumphant cheer and the look of admiration in Taylor's eyes, the general rose, stepping out into the bustle. His steps felt heavy, yet his gaze was warm and respectful. General Barnes approached Emily amidst the busy training area. The recruits paused, turning to salute. He nodded sagely. "Sco Carter, I was wrong to dismiss you as merely an old shadow in the camp. You are, in truth, a beacon of steadfast determination and team spirit. His acknowledgment rang in Emily's heart like a battle hymn once heard on savage battlefields. She felt a surge of warmth, soothing her lingering ache and affirming the profound meaning of the SEAL ethos. Afternoon sunlight stretched across the training grounds, casting guiding rays for the recruits. They no longer saw Emily as an outsider, but as a living symbol. The sight of Jensen standing tall, forcing a smile despite his arm's lingering numbness, became proof of unbreakable camaraderie. Taylor practiced controlling his breath in the tunnel, and the Southern girls smiled with new confidence as they stepped onto the climbing rope. Emily watched silently, a blend of familiarity and wonder washing over her. She remembered the first time she boarded the vessel bound for the icy Bering Sea, hearing her father's weary sigh at the harbor. She had questioned whether she possessed the strength to guide a new generation as her comrades had guided her. Now, in the recruits' admiring gazes and the general's praise, she sensed her faith restored, like cool water soothing old scars. Finally, Emily stepped toward Jensen and offered a simple nod in place of praise. The young wrestler returned her nod, eyes glistening with gratitude. The surrounding recruits exhaled, sensing the blossoming unity. Emily approached the target board and wrote 4 solemn words. "Team spirit is our greatest strength." Those words, inscribed with quiet reverence, sank deeply into every heart. When the training session concluded, Fort Bragg buzzed more vibrantly than ever, not from the whistle's call, but from the sound of unwavering resolve and brotherhood. The rallying cry, "Leave no one behind!" echoed across the camp, sealing the lesson Emily Carter had imparted. When the spotlight on the stage blazed bright, an almost uncanny stillness fell over Fort Bragg's parade ground. Emily Carter stepped onto the small platform set before the rows of recruits standing at rigid attention. Behind her, a black plaque adorned with golden lettering proclaimed, "Team Spirit, Honor, Duty." Every eye turned to her as though witnessing history in motion. She paused, gazing down at the Medal of Honor gleaming under the pale yellow lights, the very memento she had last handed to the comrade who fell in the icy expanse of the Bering Sea. Before accepting her own medal, Emily inclined her head, allowing the frayed edges of her well-worn scarf to show. That simple strip of cloth had bound comrades together through blood and tears on countless battlefields. Gently, she slipped it from her neck, the faded threads whispering of hardship and sacrifice. Then, with the trademark calm that defined her leadership, Emily draped the scarf over the American flag at the corner of the stage. For an instant, the world held its breath. The scarf billowed in the staged breeze, its red, white, and blue strands shimmering as a solemn vow, "Leave no one behind." The echoes of the ceremony spread rapidly, respectful applause, nods of shared understanding. Jensen, his arm still wrapped in white gauze, trembled with gratitude as he looked at Emily, the woman who had saved him not once, but with heart and unbreakable resolve. Taylor, the Southern football standout, regarded the old scarf with admiration, silently promising to become the dependable teammate Emily had shown him the meaning of. Haley, the medic's daughter, let a quiet sob escape, realizing that her father's memory lived on in Emily, sister, mother, and unwavering warrior. General Barnes advanced, placing the medal into Emily's hands. His face shone with renewed faith in the special training program. He saw in Emily not solely the rank of a commanding officer, but the bond of a fellow warrior. For a brief moment, they stood side by side, one a general tempered by hundreds of battles, the other a former SEAL forged by countless covert missions, united in honoring the power of unity. Emily brushed her fingers across the medal, feeling its warmth beneath her weathered skin. She recalled storm-battered seas and nights on enemy shores, to the moment on the Aleutian Pier where her father, a retired Marine, pressed that very scarf into her palm without a word, only a gaze brimming with pride and sorrow. Now, Emily passed that emblem to Fort Bragg's newest recruits, entrusting them with the lesson to never abandon a comrade. Unspoken acknowledgments drifted through the crowd, doubts about age dissolved, as did any whispers about her gender. Every reservation melted into respect. The instructors stood at attention, eyes gleaming with regard. The once vague murmurs had become firm encouragement. This is the lesson we all needed. Emily placed the medal in her palm, holding it high against her chest. The audience fell silent, witnessing the journey from personal wounds to a guiding light. The scarf, still fluttering by the flag, bore testament to the soldier's highest ideals: courage, solidarity, and endless responsibility. As the ceremony concluded, Emily descended from the stage with measured steps, each footfall engraved on the hearts of the recruits. At the end of the ranks, Jensen rose, approached her, and bowed with profound thanks. Taylor and Haley followed, lightly touching the medal, lightly touching the scarf, as they accepted the legacy of true camaraderie. The parade ground slowly returned to its routine rhythm, yet the American flag scarf remained, reminding every soul of today's lesson. Emily watched in quiet satisfaction before turning away, leaving behind the warmth and light of renewed hope. She walked into the lengthening shadows, but the story of Emily Carter and the creed, "Leave no one behind," would echo forever in the hearts of these soldiers. And you, my dear audience, brace yourselves for the next twist in this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly loving what I'm doing here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.